Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have something that should be really quite interesting. We're going to go to Brazil for this one, and this is only my third review of a beer from Brazil, and we're going to go to Porto Alegre, which is in the very southeastern part of the country, Rio Grande do Sul, and it's the capital city down there. So we're going to visit Cervejaria Tupiniquim, and this is the Monjolo Floresta Negra, which is an Imperial Porter. It comes in at 10% and there's a lot of raspberries and vanilla and cocoa added to this one, so it should be a very interesting one for us to try. And this brewery, of course, are very highly rated. There's a big craft beer scene kind of evolving down in Brazil at the moment, so hopefully in Europe we're going to see more and more Brazilian beers appearing. I think you can actually get these beers in Copenhagen now. When I was over there I saw some of the Turpiniquim things, but this beer was actually sent to me by Fabrizio and Tatiana Rossi, who are from Rio. They were on holiday in Iceland and they sent me a couple of Brazilian beers and some Icelandic ones as well, so a huge thank you to Fabrizio and Tatiana for enabling this video. And I'm going to make a deal with Fabrizio to actually get some more Brazilian beers in, so you can look forward to those. But he also helped me out with finding some articles on the brewery and explaining a few things to me as well. So a huge thank you to these guys for enabling this video. Fabrizio has become a really good friend and he knows his stuff about Brazilian beer, so I hope they really enjoy this beer review. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I will tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Cervejaria Tupiniquim. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, and there's all the usual social media things, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd, so please follow me on there. Your support would be much appreciated, and if you want to see more beer reviews then please subscribe to the channel. There will hopefully be more Brazilian ones, and I will apologise in advance for any bad Portuguese pronunciations. Fabrizio has helped me out with that though, and I will actually talk to him and see if we can put some Portuguese subtitles on the video at some point in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. But anyway, to tell you about Cervejaria Tupiniquim. So Cervejaria Tupiniquim are based in Porto Alegre in southern Brazil, which is actually in the very southeast corner. It's very close to the border with Uruguay actually, but Porto Alegre is the capital city of Rio Grande do Sul, and I believe it's the 10th biggest city in Brazil. It's got about 1.5 million people. But Cervejaria Tupiniquim was founded in 2013 by friends Christian Bonotto, Andre Bettiol, Fernando Jaeger, Alex Ribeiro and Marcio Santos. But the brewery symbol is the blue macaw, as you'll see on the bottle cap in a minute, and the name Turpiniquim comes from one of the native tribes of Brazil. Of course, it's named after them. That was one of the things that Fabrizio told me. But Christian, Andre and Fernando used to work together with computers at Banco do Rio Grande do Sul, and Andre and Christian had actually been homebrewers before this, and I think it was Christian, they said, had very good connections with beer distributors, so this was what really prompted them to go and produce their own beers, because they got very good reception when they let friends taste them. But Alex and Marcio joined the company to take care of the commercial side of things, and they opened their first brewery in January of 2014, and this one had a monthly capacity of 30,000 litres of beer per year, so this meant that they were producing about 350,000 litres of beer per year. So since opening they've done various collaboration brews, including with Jeppe Bjergso of Evil Twin Brewing. Of course, he's the brother of the guy who owns Mikkeller. There's Henrik Fenty of Omnipollo has done some things with them as well, and there's Brian Strumke, who is from Stillwater as well. If you look on the brewery website, there's a whole host of different beers that these guys have done, so do go and check out the brewery website like I said. But in 2016 the brewery will also open a new brewing facility which has a 12,000 metre squared floor space, and this new facility also has cellar space which allows them to experiment with barrel aging. They also have canning facilities there, and they'll have more fermentation space, and they will also have a tasting room and a restaurant as well. So if you do find yourself in Brazil, go and visit Porto Alegre. It's a huge country, so it might be quite hard to get there, but if you do find yourself in Porto Alegre for whatever reason, I guess you can go and visit Cervejaria Tupiniquim and you can try some of their beers and some of their food. So like I said, that's your little bit about Cervejaria Tupiniquim. Just to list some of the other beers for you, their older range of beers I believe are the Pilsen, Pale Ale, Red Ale, Weiss, Helles and Bock beer. Hopefully I can review some of them for you, but as I said, they do have a very large range of beers. They've done various collaborations both with Omnipollo and with Evil Twin as well. Evil Twin actually are very involved with this brewery these days, and they also did some with Stillwater Artisanal from America too, so there's a lot of beers there. As I said, just go and check out the brewery website, and if you check the Cervejas tab on on the website, and if you use Chrome as well, you can Google Translate it, and it'll list all of these different beers for you there. There was quite a lot, maybe about 50 or so I think when I was scrolling down them, but there's a lot of stuff on there. But anyway, let's get a look at this beer itself. We'll get on to the tasting section of the video now. So this one, as I told you, is a 10% Imperial Porter. It's got raspberries in it, there's cocoa and vanilla in there too, so it should be very interesting. It comes in at 10% and it says to serve between 6 degrees and 10 degrees, and this bottle has been out of the fridge now for about half an hour, so I would guess that it's probably up about the right temperature. The translation of the description of this one, it says, "Nothing is so good it cannot be improved. We took our Imperial Porter, added an extra dose of cocoa and vanilla beans to it, and complemented the mix with lots of raspberry. The result is surprising fruit beer, which brings us the dessert Black Forest." And Fabrizio was telling me that the Monjolo is actually a kind of wooden, or how would you say it? It's a kind of wooden water pump that apparently the slaves used to use back in Brazil. So I'm not sure if that's what this refers to, but basically it means forest black. So it should be quite an interesting beer for us, this one. I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this before we open it up. So you can see there, it's quite nicely presented, this one. All the labels, incidentally, from Turpiniquim are actually different, but they are older series of beers that I read out for you. They've got a very distinctive label, and there you can see the blue macaw, which is the symbol of Cervejaria Tupiniquim. So this one should be very, very interesting. It has the commercial description on the side here that tells you in Portuguese just a little bit about the brewery, and they have the Hoppiness Rating on here as well. So it should be very interesting. 310ml bottle, which is quite an unusual measurement actually. That must be something that's native to Brazil, but we'll get this guy out and see how we get on with the tasting here. So, as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. But this is only my third review that I've ever done from Brazil. The last one I did for you was from Brown, the Scotch Ale, and that was very, very nice. As a Scotsman, I was very, very impressed with their Scotch Ale. I also did the Cerveja Amazonia, which was from Belém Brewery, who were up from Para, I think, as well. And that was a really quite interesting fruity beer. I'm just watching with the pour of this one so the head doesn't go too crazy. We've got a big head on it already. So there you are. As you can see, this beer has poured a really nice, dark, sort of ebony rosewood colour. You can smell the raspberries off this one as you pour it out, but it looks very, very nice. As you can see, there's no transparency to this beer at all. If I hold it up to the light, it does have a very slight ruby edge to it, but there's really not much light travelling through that beer at all. There's a couple of big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, but not too many, but there's quite a lot of smaller ones just going up towards the underside of that head there, and the head is about 1.5 fingers, and I would describe that as being a very kind of dark tanny beige colour. It looks very, very nice. So let's give this beer a smell and see how we get on. Oof. Now that's a really unusual aroma. So you can smell the things that you would expect of an Imperial Porter, you know, some roasted malts, a little bit of coffee, quite a lot of sweet chocolate, but the raspberries on this one, they're quite interesting. Scottish raspberries always smell really quite sharp actually, but these ones smell very, very juicy. And it's just a really interesting aroma. The one that I reviewed from my local brewery, Harveston, the Raspberry Engine, just a few videos back, this one smells like an even kind of more ramped up version of that, and it's probably because it's an Imperial Porter rather than just being a normal porter. I think the Raspberry Engine was only about 6%, but it smells really similar. You can smell these juicy raspberries, but it's complemented quite a bit with some red fruity esters, you know, some sort of candied fruits, a little bit of the sort of the kind of red fruity esters a little bit too, like plums, raisins, figs. There's some of that in here too, but you can smell the nice roasted malt base just underpinning this one. So we'll sugar it up a little bit and just see if that changes it at all. Yeah, now when you sugar it up a bit more, you start to get more of the malt out of there. You can actually smell a bit of toasted caramel coming out of this one. When you sugar it up, there's a definite caramel toasted element to this one, some nice roasted brown sugars. Maybe even like treacle or molasses. It does actually smell quite dark in that regard, but there's a nice roasty, a kind of well-fired bready roast to this one. A little bit of coffee, like I said, but the chocolate and the vanilla are really prominent in here as well. So with this beer, you've got a nice big aroma, so just take a little bit of time and smell this beer before you actually try it. But we're going to get stuck into this guy just now. So this is the Monjolo Negra, how do I say this one? Monjolo Floresta Negra, which is from Cervejaria Tupiniquim in Porto Alegre down in Brazil. Thank you to Fabrizio and Tatiana for sending this beer. We'll get stuck in. Skål. Now that's quite interesting. First thing you're going to notice about this beer when you take it in, there's actually quite a bit of carbonation in this one. It comes in and it's really quite active, but it's a big syrupy beer, and as you saw from the pour, it was actually really big and syrupy too, but the carbonation is really active in this one. You could see that a little bit from the glass, but I was thinking that would just be little bits that were stuck to the side of the glass when I cleaned it, but the carbonation is definitely there. Yeah, the carbonation in this beer, it's actually really quite fizzy, so it's interesting from that regard, and it must just be because of how hot Brazil is. I think Porto Alegre, of course, will be very, very close to the equator. Fabrizio always complains about the temperature in Brazil, which is understandable, but 40 odd degrees with ridiculous humidity. But this, obviously, the carbonation is there for the kind of refreshing factor of the beer. Brazilians will want a beer that is nice and refreshing just because of the temperature, but it's a little bit unusual for me coming from Europe, because our porters and things are usually quite oily and big malty beers that are very smooth, so this is quite an interesting little quirk on the style. I would say, yeah, the carbonation, once you get used to it, the beer does feel a little bit smoother. So if you're trying this Brazilian beer for the first time, maybe try that. But that said, the one that I tried from Boda Brown, the Scotch Ale, did have a very smooth carbonation. So it's maybe just one of the things with this brewery actually that they like to do that. But yeah, as I always say with these beers, sugar them around your palate a little bit before you start to think too much about the flavour. But with this one, you have a nice kind of brown bready malt base, and that just blankets the middle of your palate. It goes right across there, and on top of that you get the sweeter parts of the malt base just building there. There's some kind of sweet toasted roasty caramel. You'll feel that just going down the middle of your tongue, and as that kind of progresses, as you progress into the aftertaste, you'll feel the sweet chocolate and also some of the nice vanilla flavours just mixing in with that. There's a whole host of stuff going on in this beer. There is just an underpinning sort of roasted malt, slightly coffee-ish flavour to this one. I would say it leans more towards the kind of well-fired bread flavour, the well-fired bread crust. That's what's really lingering and just underpinning the malt base on here. But for me, overall the malt base is actually fairly sweet. The roasted characters only start to come out a bit later in the beer, which is really nice. Yeah, this beer is definitely quite interesting. Around the back edges of the palate, which is where you expect the hoppy characters to come out, there's a nice, very smooth, earthy hop, and as you come further forward, it starts a little bit dry at the back, but as you come further forward, it smooths out. There is a little bit of dryness around the front curve of the tongue and the front corners, but other than that, it is really quite smooth actually. This beer is very nicely done, and it's quite interesting from the mouthfeel as well, because it is quite different. But of course, on top of all these nice malty flavours, I've been trying to ignore it just to pick up the malty flavours for that part of the video, but you can really get a lot of these nice raspberries. The raspberries are actually a little bit tart, but they're not tart in the same way that a sour beer is. They've just got a nice, quite sharp, juicy character there, and you can feel those just kind of mixing with that earthy character in this beer. You can feel them all around the edge of the palate there. They give you a very nice juicy character to this beer, but behind the very front curve of the tongue you can feel that little oily bubble there, which is where the hoppy elements of fruit come out. So in there you've got some candied fruit flavours. I always describe it as being like these Haribo Star Mix sweets, the little hearts. It has that kind of red sort of strawberry candied fruit flavour in there. There's maybe a little bit of kind of figs and raisins as well, some plums. It's actually quite a sharp red fruity character that comes out of this beer, and that complements the raspberry flavour as well, because like I said, the raspberry in this beer comes across as quite tart. But yeah, they've done the roasted malts in this quite well. They're actually really quite subtle, and then you've got the sweeter chocolate and vanilla in there as well, and some of the roasted caramel, but that blends together very well with this nice juicy fruity character that's in there, and some of the hoppier fruits like I was mentioning behind the front part of the tongue. But once again, this is another very, very good Brazilian beer, and on the basis of this one, I really would like to try some more of the Cervejaria Tupiniquim beers. It would be really cool to try some of their other things, especially the Bock beer and the Red Ale. Those are two of my favourite styles, so I'll see if I can get Fabrizio to send me those, but you'll see them appear in the next little while anyway. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say it's quite mid-bodied actually. As I said, the carbonation in this one is really quite active, but it does smooth out as your palate gets used to that. Like I said, I think that is just because of the sheer temperature that you have down in Brazil, so that's maybe a little bit of a quirk. But that said, it didn't happen with some other Brazilian beers I had, so it could well be just this brewery like a little bit, they like to use a little bit higher carbonation, so maybe that is just a quirk. But the mouthfeel of this one, it's not too oily, it's more of a wet mouthfeel this. The malt base is quite sweet, but at the same time in the aftertaste you have a little bit of dryness from a kind of lingering, slightly bitter and roasted character. There's some smooth earthiness there, and a little bit of, there's some smooth earthy hops. The hop character is overall quite smooth, but there is just a little bit of dryness at various points on the palate, and there is quite a bit of juicy, fruity character to this one, both from the hops and from the actual fruit additions that they've made to this beer. But overall, it's another really, really awesome Brazilian beer, and it really makes me want to actually review more of these for you. Maybe that was Fabrizio's plan all along, just send me two of the best Brazilian beers that he's come across, and then make me want to review all the rest of them. So I can guarantee you, you will see more Brazilian beer reviews at some point in the near future. The Boda Brown and this one here have really made me want to do some more, so you can guarantee that, and I will get on to Fabrizio about it. But yeah, in the meantime, until my next beer review, go and have a look at some of the beers from Cervejaria Tupiniquim. Like I said, if you're watching in Europe, I think you can get these beers in Copenhagen, so you probably will start to see them in other parts of the country too. In North America, I would guess you can find them because Evil Twin do a lot of work with this brewery, and they're probably importing them up there. But yeah, as always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are trying the beers too. So I hope you've enjoyed this Brazilian beer review. Go and check out Cervejaria Tupiniquim. They do some really good stuff from what Fabrizio tells me, and on the basis of this beer, I will believe him on that. So hopefully I can review some more of their beers too. But until my next beer review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do comment if you're watching from Brazil. I'd be interested to hear some of the other Brazilian breweries and beers that you'd like me to have a look at. I will see if I can get a hold of them through Fabrizio, but I thank you once again for watching. As I said, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out the social media things, but most importantly, go and try some Cervejaria Tupiniquim beer from Porto, Alegre in Brazil. Slange just now, and once again, thank you to Fabrizio and Tatiana. I'll catch you soon. Cheers.